You guys have heard of Mario, and you've probably also heard of Wario, but have you guys ever heard of Barrio? Barrio is from the Japanese exclusive Super Famicom puzzle game Mario and Wario. Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Yoshi hear about a legendary fairy of fortune who lives in a magical forest. So like sensible people, they decide to go into a dark, strange forest they've never been to before without a map based on some random fairy tale they heard. Yeah, sounds pretty reasonable to me. This game is really interesting in that it was developed by Game Freak, the guys who made Pokemon. The three big dogs of Pokemon, Ken Sugimori, Junichi Masuda, and Satoshi Tajiri, all worked on this game. Mario and Wario is also pretty cool, being that it's one of the few games that use the Super Nintendo mouse, which I'm sure most of you guys probably associate with Mario Paint. Gameplay wise, it's pretty similar to the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, where you have to guide a character through a level, which in this case is Mario and friends who got buckets thrown on their heads by Wario. You use the mouse to interact with the environment to ensure Mario, Peach, or Yoshi makes it to Luigi at the end of the stage. The character you play as is the woodland fairy in question, named Barrio. Her name isn't actually Barrio. It's Wanda. But the reason why I called her Barrio is because the UK Nintendo magazine system, for no reason at all, decided to name her Barrio. I thought maybe it was because they didn't have a translation yet, but strangely, this game is completely in English despite not getting released outside of Japan. I don't think her name is actually mentioned in-game though, so I think you'd have to read the Japanese manual to know what it is. So I'm guessing that's the reason Nintendo magazine system didn't know it. Mario and Wario not being released overseas is especially jarring considering it was featured in various other magazines and promotional material outside of Japan, even in Nintendo Power. Now, you guys have probably heard of Nintendo Power, but have you heard of Nintendo Power? Nintendo Power was a super popular official Nintendo magazine, lasting all the way from the late 80s to the early 2010s. But Nintendo Power was a Japanese exclusive service that ran from 1997 all the way up to 2007 that allowed players to purchase a special blank Super Famicom or Game Boy cartridge, which could then have games downloaded onto them with the Nintendo Power Writer. The Nintendo Power cartridge service was actually pretty useful as downloading a game was less expensive than buying the full retail cartridge. So it seems like it was a good value for the customer. Being download only also meant that Nintendo didn't have to make the physical cartridges for each retail game, meaning it was a win-win for the players and Nintendo. They even had some exclusive games to this service, one of which being Wrecking Crew 98. Wrecking Crew on the NES is a Nintendo classic that most retro gaming enthusiasts are probably aware of, but its sequel, Wrecking Crew 98, is a bit more obscure. One day, Mario is just hanging out and he sees that Bowser has gotten into the real estate business and is building a bunch of skyscrapers. So Mario takes it upon himself to destroy Bowser's property. Not gonna lie, I feel like this is one of the few instances where Mario is the villain of the game. Sure, these big buildings are bad for the environment, but Bowser is well within his legal right to build on his own property. Unlike the original Wrecking Crew, which is a fairly simple high-score game where you have to break all of the walls in each level, 98 is actually a full-on competitive puzzle game where you have to match walls of different colors together to try and overflow your opponent's board. So, you guys are probably thinking, hey, all this mildly obscure Nintendo history is cool and all, but where are the weird characters you promised? Okay. What if I told you one of the characters in this game was dead? And no, I'm not talking about some lame, creepypasta, fake symbolism dead. Like, no, she straight up gets angel wings and a halo and flies up to heaven dead. One of the secret characters you can face in the story mode is a character named Onanoko, which in Japanese is a term used for little kid girls. She's a strange ghost girl who says she's been alone for a while and asks Mario to play with her. If you manage to defeat her, she thanks you and ascends into the sky after sprouting wings and a halo. My theory is that she was a dead girl whose spirit was disturbed after Bowser's building was made on top of her grave. By wrecking the building, you preserved her resting place and gave her peace, allowing her to move on. And after realizing this young girl is dead, as she goes up to heaven, Mario's just like, Yahoo! There's other strange characters too, like this guy Oyazi, who's out here drinking on the job. When you first meet the guy, he's really sad that the building that he made was really cold and desolate. But after defeating him, he says he's gonna make warm and comforting houses from now on. Talk about character development. There's also this, rice ball? The official Japanese term for this dish is onigiri, a rice ball wrapped in seaweed, usually with some sort of filling inside. So, for some reason, this thing has become sentient, starts freaking out, and challenges Mario to some wrecking crew. Then, after you beat him, he just explodes. Yahoo! Of course, we can't talk about Wrecking Crew without mentioning Foreman Spike, or as he's called in Japan, I can see why they changed the name. Spike was in the NES Wrecking Crew as an opponent in the bonus stages. In '98 though, not only is he working with Bowser, he's been working out because this guy glowed up seriously. Spike would appear in another Japanese exclusive Mario title, this time on the Game Boy Color game Mobile Golf, developed by Camelot, the guys behind the Mario Golf and Mario Tennis series. Mobile Golf, despite lacking the big, in the title, this is still a Mario Golf game, although strangely, all of the Mario characters are not unlocked from the start. The only way to unlock Mario characters is to use the Mobile Adapter GB. The Mobile Adapter GB was a cable released in 2001 that could connect your Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance to a cell phone. You could use this to connect to the internet, allowing you to see high scores from other players, download DLC for games, and even play online multiplayer. Definitely ahead of its time. Unfortunately, this peripheral was only in Japan. For Mobile Golf, the adapter could be used to download Mario, Peach, Yoshi, and Foreman Spike. Interestingly, Mobile Golf takes more of an RPG approach to its gameplay, having you make a character who has to face better and better golfers, gain experience to level up, and increase their stats. Some of these other golfers are not like your typical Mario characters. Instead of Donkey Kong or Birdo, you're golfing against guys like Bean and Powered, regular human characters. Not only are they human, but they're legitimately from real life places. It straight up says on Camelot's website that Powered is from Egypt. Not the desert world or the Budo kingdom, just straight up Egypt. There's also Bird, who's from Ireland, and Rosary, who they outright say has Latin blood. Mario games are no stranger to referencing real life places in their games, but this is about as blatant as you can get. But what's even weirder than Mario games referencing real world stuff is when Mario games reference stuff from other fictional universes, like with the enemy from Super Mario Land 2, the masked ghoul, Jason. Jason is an enemy from the Pumpkin Zone in Super Mario Land 2. It appears to be a Goomba or some Goomba type creature wearing a hockey mask with a knife in it. This is a pretty shameless reference to the horror icon Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th franchise. Super Mario Land 2 came out in 1992, and while the Friday the 13th movies were definitely waning in terms of popularity by the early 90s, partly because of oversaturation considering they released 8 Friday the 13th movies in the span of 10 years, and partly because the type of horror film where maniacs go around killing a bunch of stupid teenagers, commonly referred to as slasher movies, were becoming less popular, the character of Jason was still a huge figure in pop culture. It's really odd that Nintendo would make such a blatant reference to such a popular character in a Mario game, no less. The last thing I think to see in a lighthearted kids franchise is a savage murderous psychopath. It's so weird to me considering all of the other enemies in Pumpkin Zone, the area this enemy appears in, are all references to pretty generic horror staples like ghosts, witches, and vampires. But this is a straight up copyrighted character. The hockey mask is just iconic. But Jason isn't the only masked weirdo in the Mario series. There's also Mr. L from Super Paper Mario. Mr. L, aka the Green Thunder, is a strange and mysterious masked man who appears every now and then over the course of the game. He's so mysterious, and it's Luigi. In the beginning of the game, he's brainwashed and turned into a villain serving the game's main antagonist. For a majority of the game, he's a recurring antagonist who pops up from time to time in cutscenes and to fight the player. I have to admit, it is pretty cool seeing Luigi as a villain. He's basically the exact opposite of Luigi, super confident, brave, and more than willing to roast everyone in the game. Considering Luigi was little more than a background decoration in the previous Paper Mario games, having him play a bigger role here, and as a villain no less, is really awesome. He's also the final boss of the game. Well, at least part of the final boss. One of the game's villains, Dimentio, fuses with Mr. L in a dark artifact called the Chaos Heart to transform into Super Dimentio. I've always been a huge fan of Mr. L, and it'd be really cool to see him come back one day, but that'll probably never happen. So yeah, that's about all the weird Mario characters I have for today. There are definitely some other characters I could talk about, but we'll save that for a part 2 somewhere down the road. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, there's a whole playlist of videos just like this one on the left side of the screen. If you want to be notified when I post a new video, then click on the subscribe button and the notification bell. If you'd be so kind, click the like button too before you go, as it really helps the channel grow. Thanks guys, don't be afraid to be yourself, and have a good one.